Welcome to the University Park Improvement District recorded meeting records. The board tried to delete these from the internet, claiming it cost too much to keep them saved on Zoom, so now they are here uploaded for free on YouTube. Meet the board members: James Slaymaker, the lying hypocrite; Joanne Zahner, who joined the board because she was upset her neighbor had more cars than her; and Sarah Dole, who agrees with them that it should be illegal for women to be topless. Welcome to the University Park Improvement District recorded meeting records. The board tried to delete these from the internet, claiming it cost too much to keep them saved on Zoom, so now they are here uploaded for free on YouTube. Meet the board members: James Slaymaker, the lying hypocrite; Joanne Zahner, who joined the board because she was upset her neighbor had more cars than her; and Sarah Dole, who agrees with them that it should be illegal for women to be topless.
A few minutes. We'll go. Hello. This is this meeting is being recorded, included both the live and the Zoom audiences for future reference. We're going to call the meeting to order. It's time to begin the first University Park Board meeting of 2024. Thank you for joining us. The first order of business is the installation of new board members as elected by the community last November. Thank you, Richard Soash, for your service to our community. It takes a lot of time and effort to do the job, and you have done it well. The board is elected for 2 years. Joanne Zahner to my left, and myself, James Slaymaker, and Sarah Dahl on the far end will be Joanne is the secretary, and Sarah will be the treasurer in the next 2 years, and I will be the president. Unless I messed it up too bad. So first off is audience comments. Are there any comments from the community? And so we have a couple of people in the room, and then whoever's online. So if you'd like to speak, please be brief and say who you are so everybody else will know. And so please speak up, anyone.
I do have I mean.
Go ahead, Kurt. Kurt's got something to say.
Frederick, and I'll just add, there's a couple of things on the agenda that after I talk to you and I looked at it a little bit, I do have a couple of comments. Is now the time to do it, or just when we talk to it, when you get to it on the agenda?
Right now.
Okay. On the rental management.
Oh yeah, we'll deal with that when we get to it. Let's wait on that.
Okay, and the same way with Kevin.
Yes, please.
So, okay.
Okay.
I have one comment. Just I want to reiterate what James said. Richard Soash being president for 2 years, and was he on the board before that?
Oh yeah.
All the
3.5
years,
or something.
all the years he gave, just like other people before him. I mean, it is a thankless job, and he did a great job at helping University Park run as smoothly as it could. Anyway, that's my only comment.
All right. Is there any other comments?
This is Tracy Sabo, and I was just going to ask if there is anything for the Sherman Township board, if you guys have anything on roads.
I mean, it's on the agenda when we do committees. Okay. If we could wait till then, that would be best. Is that possible?
Okay. Yep. Of course. Of course.
Thanks, Tracy.
Anything else? All right. We're going to keep rolling. So first off, we're going to approval of the November meeting minutes and financial report for November and December. No meeting was held in December. So are there any corrections or questions about those minutes and financials? Nope. So do we have a motion to accept the November meeting minutes and the November, December end of year financial reports?
I motion that we approve the November meeting minutes and financial reports for November and December.
I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. So also in that was the end of year financial, and we included 2022 and 2023. So if anyone's curious about historical, how it lays out, both of them are available for anyone to look at. And Sarah will be taking over the financials, so ask her after this meeting for the next 2 years. Let's see here, that one's done. So, old business. First off is the sewer lagoon update, and you can see the updates at universityparksks.org. You go to the website, click on the University Park info tab, scroll down and click on the sewer and water updates. And I did check, it is there. And just a brief, short deal of what it is. Basically, they don't have the samples back yet. And we've been approved for quite a bit of funding. The exact dollar really hasn't been nailed down, and it hasn't been signed yet. And it won't be signed until the state of Kansas signs it. And he thought that Evan thought it would happen this month. So once that thing gets signed, it's our money, and we don't have to worry about anybody else finding a need for it. So we should see that this month. So any questions on that, the sewer lagoon? All right, standing committee reports. We're going to confirm the active committee volunteers for 2024. There is much to be done in 2024. Please consider helping on one of the committees. If your name is listed and you are no longer willing or able to serve, let the board know. Consider what you value about University Park and where you might be able to give your time. That's really important one is, what do you care about? And because it takes a lot of time and effort. And it's important that you care about it, so you'll put the time into it. So be thoughtful about that. The first one is the boat ramp, which currently is Don Turner. Don, are you online? No? Okay. Well, so Don is currently rebuilding he has a plan to rebuild the boat dock, and he's working with the Army Corps on the requirements and making sure we're in compliance. So more to follow on that. I do know that the boat dock trailer in Don's yard has a flat tire, and Don was asking if somebody could go help and basically change the tire, help get the tire swapped out. I'd say just contact Don and coordinate with Don on getting that done. You're going to be in his front yard, so don't just show up. You might get shot. So anyway, so there's that. Golf course. So Jeff Luna volunteered to head the committee. We're going to need some more people though. This is a big year for the golf course with the lagoon going on 5 and 6, holes 5 and 6, that they're going to need to be relocated if the community is something we want long term. And I think it is. And then on a side note is the disc golf is going to lose quite a few holes too, and that's going to have to be resolved in conjunction maybe with the disc golf club and us, the board, and the community on where we want to put it and how that gets resolved. So be thoughtful on that. And Jeff definitely wants some help in normal things, normal maintenance, normal plans, but there's some bigger projects that's going to happen this year. So if you want to, stamp your name on a long-term project for 20, 50 years and say you were part of building some new holes, this should be the thing for you. So welcome committee. Kim Luna, she is moving on to additional grandbaby, and she's going to focus on that. So she will not be on the welcome committee. We have Roxy Martins, Ali Gilbert, and Stacy Cheezick, and we need one of them or somebody else between the three of them, or whoever else, determine who the main point of contact is for the board, so we can keep moving forward and keep getting the information so we can update the contact list and welcome the new community members. Firewise, Carla Slaymaker, she's been doing it a couple of years by herself. She needs some help. She's my wife. She's helping me on all this board stuff, and she could use some help so she can help me more. So be thinking if you guys want to be a part of that. And if you have a question, if you don't understand what Firewise is, talk to her, talk to us,
That's on the website too, what Firewise is.
Yeah.
Good description.
Actually, I'm sorry, I'm rolling through these. I should have asked if there was any input on any of these things we're talking about. Is there any comments about the stuff we're talking about yet on these committees? I apologize. First meeting. I'll go slower. I'll ask. Parks and Rec. Here we go. This will be something. So this is Kurt Frederick. Kurt, you got some updates?
I do. So, December meeting, the Parks Board met. And that is when we have now started, making the request for the upcoming year. $60,000 is the budget that the county commission has approved for community parks, for several years now. All of the community parks requests totaled up to $96,538. So we had to pare it down a little bit. Our request, we're focusing on the pickleball basketball court again this year. We got a little bit of money from the county park for that in 2023, which was $7,000, which was rolled over into a capital improvement fund. So it's there for us when we get the rest of the funding for it. The estimate to put that in for the concrete, the gravel, everything we need for it is $32,000. And so I requested $25,000 this year, and with the big allocate or big request of 96,000, several of us had to pare back some. So what we did, we ended up with we're going to get $11,000 this year. As it is, the ink's not dry yet, but it's to the county commission. It may have went last Thursday. I did not see that agenda, but I know the parks people were getting everything lined up to put that there. It's either gonna be last Thursday or this week, or the weather may change that schedule a little bit, but if it's not there now, it will be in the next 2 weeks for sure. So that'll get approved. It's just a formality, and they will, so Leonardville's and University Parks, we each got $11,000. Zingdale Park also got $11,000 to put towards concrete for a pavilion that they are going to build. They have the funds for the pavilion. They needed the funds for the concrete of 17,000. We're going to put 11,000 toward it. They're going to have the funds. They're going to raise enough funds locally themselves to go ahead and do that. But Leonardville and us are going to put another $11,000 in the CIP. So that'll get us to 18,000 of our 32,000 that we need. So we'll go back next year and hopefully request the balance of that. Hopefully we'll get it. We may need to do some fundraising locally, but I know there's some other things on our slate here that James kind of alluded to with the relocation of some golf stuff out on the golf course. So that we are not going to meet in person in March. That was our plan anyhow, unless something comes up, changes. There just really wasn't a need. They didn't think. We may just do an email thing or something. We will meet in June in Leonardville. The only other thing that got there is if anybody wants some viburnum bushes, Greg Eyestone, who is the extension agent, has a bunch in his yard personally. It's not something that the county has, it's his own thing. These 2 parent viburnum bushes, produce other fiber, and said it probably 100 of them that he needs to get transplanted and thinned out. So
Is he gonna dig them up?
no.
Are they native to Kansas?
Yes.
Wonderful.
They are. I believe it. So if we want them for here in the park, anyone wants them personally, I could give you his email information, whatever.
Would you please?
And yeah, the Greg Eyestone, it'd be at the county, it's just a regular all those Riley County, Kansas, whatever email, but I can sure get that to anybody.
Thank you, Kurt.
So,
All right, well, Kurt's looking that up. So let's talk about the pickleball court. So basically, Kurt pretty much said it is we're not gonna have enough money this year to do it. And there are other things that most likely could be more important. We don't really have to decide that right now, but potentially they're gonna be more important. We only have so much dollars. So what our intention is we're gonna request it at this time. We're gonna request it for next year and compile the money, and hopefully we can proceed with it next year. So what we will do though this year is we'll level that out there, where we rip the trees out and throw some grass seed down so we don't have mud, and let it ride until we get it done. We still intend to do it, but we just don't have the funds to spend out of University Park unless somebody wants to write a check for the remaining 14,000, and that would be welcome. And we would put a plaque up with your name on it. You know, so that, you know, you sharing the cost with Riley County Park. So keep that in mind for your wills. Okay. Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate that.
Very much.
Sherman Township, Tracy Sabo. It's your turn, Tracy.
I do not see her on here anymore.
Uh-oh.
Oh, she is still here.
Oh, yeah, WIC. Tracy, can you hear us?
All right, so we'll come back to Tracy. We'll keep going and we'll give her an opportunity. So then we have Prairie Management, Laura Mendenhall. Are
Yeah,
you there?
I'm here. Yeah,
Cool.
so just a couple updates. Really successful cedar Christmas tree harvest in early December. We cut down over 75 trees. We still have a long ways to go, so it's kind of an ongoing management thing for the prairie parts of the golf course. Hoping to do that event next year as well. And yeah, I'm looking for committee members. So if you're interested in serving with me, so we do mostly the grass management of the golf course. So I don't know anything about golf, which is where Jeff Luna will come in, but we focus on the grassy areas and mostly treating the invasive species that are there. So would love to have your help. Just reach out to me. And I did have a question of the board. So as part of our Old World blue stem treatment, and for everyone's knowledge, that's a really bad invasive species. It's covering holes 5 and 6, and then kind of in little pockets on the rest of the course. As part of that, our strategy is an adaptive management strategy. So we spray every summer and fall to try and knock it back. And then in late winter, I usually go out and try to map the remaining stands. Just to see progress and maybe where we've missed areas. And so this year I was going to go out in March, but I have a Boy Scout troop in Manhattan, and the Scoutmaster is one of my coworkers. And he said his boys are looking for a conservation project. They're tired of just picking up trash because they don't really learn much from it. And there's frankly not a lot of trash around to pick up. So he and I were talking about getting the boys out here for a day in March on some Saturday, and I would teach them how to identify Old World blue stem. They would go out, map it with their GPSs, kind of do some orienteering skills, and then would present us with a map of the existing locations. So I guess I'm asking for permission to host the scouts just for a day. They'd probably want to use the pavilion for like a little cookout, but they would be out on the course mapping for us.
I think sounds great.
Like it.
No problem. I don't get to vote on that. Just go ahead and do it. Just
Okay,
let us-
super.
Let her know when. So
Yeah,
put it on the
so I
calendar.
can put it on the calendar.
Okay, yep, great. I will let you know as soon as I talk with them.
Just give me a call.
Okay. Any
All right,
questions?
thank you.
Okay.
Oh, hey,
Thanks.
so I do have a question. So have we nailed down, are we gonna burn in the spring now, or what are we doing? with the
Yeah,
burn?
you, me, and John just need to get out there at some point. I don't want to get out there while it's this cold, but yeah, we just keep on missing each other. But yes, I think that's a great idea. We burned last year, and I think it's good to keep trying to use that tool to manage the woody invasives, but also see if we can do some Old World blue stem management that way as well. So yeah, James, you and me and John just need to chat.
Okay,
So will people contact Laura if they want to be on the committee, and Carla, and Or should they send to the board? I don't know what's the best thing.
Either way, if you have,
Yeah, if
if you
have.
know who Carla is and you got her information, then talk to her. And if not, hit the board and we can
Okay.
put people in touch with
Okay.
people.
And I'll
Either
make
way.
sure and highlight it on the notes. Okay.
And Tracy, are you there now?
Yes, yes. Okay, so just, I attended the first meeting in December of the Sherman Township, and they were finishing up kind of their 2023 fiscal year, and they had about $30,000 that they were gonna move into their equipment budget. But they were working on 3 roads here in University Park. Has anyone seen new gravel on the road?
I have not. Do you know what roads they were going to stick them on?
Yes, one of them was our road here, Bayview Circle, and then there was 2. I would have to look at my notes. Let me go back to that. Let me go back to my notes and I can tell you. I submitted a report to the board, so you guys will have it whenever we have meetings. I can't off the top of my head remember which other 2 in University Park.
Yeah, I just remember seeing Bayview Circle on that. I didn't see other roads.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was one other name and I didn't catch the third name. But that's what they were going to do here in University Park. They are working and have reached out to Jamie Johnson about some of the encroachments up on the road that they can't plow around. So that's one of the things that they were working on. Next steps, they've reached out to her, they'll send a letter, and then next there will be letters going from they'll ask for University Park, Sherman Township, and the county before they just go and move this stuff. So that was really the only problem we had. And then their upcoming budget is 120,000, and they'll continue. If you have roads that need to be worked on, let me know, and I can take that to the meetings that they're having.
So, I mean, we got snow on the ground. I'm just curious, do you have any idea, sitting in the meeting with them, did they say that they would come out? What's their plan for handling snow? This is a new board since the last time we had snow. I don't think we even had snow last year requiring plowing, so.
They did plow one time
Did they?
in the
Yes.
last month or 2, whenever. It was surprising and wonderful.
So, I mean, what's your thought forward with them in the meeting, with the snow that we have now? Is this something that they are going to address, or,
We got the snow over Thanksgiving, and they were out here actually pretty quickly on that snowfall. They talked about their snow plows, and they run it off a priority list, and then wherever the plow is. So currently, I don't know where the plow is, but I can ask that question and then send it out. It just depends where the plow is. So
yeah, I haven't heard about complaints from anyone yet. I mean, it's drifting a little bit. Other than that, it's pretty shallow. It's more when it starts to thaw and whatever the drifts are going to be a slushy mess. And anyway, I'm just curious if there was a discussion in the meeting about, if they had a master plan or how they were going to, if they said, 2 inches, we're going to come plow, or 3 inches, or, if they said anything like that.
No, they just talked about it being on a priority list. And like they cover Blue River Hills and then us. I'm trying to think, they actually cover with that plow. They're contracted out to cover out 2 other townships. So it just kind of depends where the plow's at. But I can get some clarification on that.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see where the priority, because if they have 4 townships, where does UP, or do they switch it around? Or it'd be interesting just because we have so many residents.
Yes.
Compared to Blue River. Okay, thank you, Tracy.
All right, thank you, Tracy. So next one would be equipment, which is Kurt, our maintenance man and grass mowing man.
I feel the equipment's all in pretty good shape this year, going into, spring. There'll just be some normal, maintenance that'll need to be done. Probably not, I do not anticipate as much maintenance this year as we did, last spring. The hours on the tractors, I think there's only one of them that's probably gonna need oil change, but, probably change the air filters on them, they get pretty dirty when you're mowing and pushing up the brush pile and the burn pile down there. Mowers are in pretty good shape, pretty good condition. The house with the zero turn will service that completely. But, as far as the tractor, I don't see that we need to put, I think there's only 40 hours on a couple of them, and usually 100 hours, engine hours, is when you change it or in the building, so.
Okay, so those that don't know, is 2 years ago, we spent $7,000 on a new fairway mower that has worked very well. Everybody was happy with it in the last 2 years. And then so Kurt retired from his full-time job, and he's basically our primary maintenance man on the equipment, and he is working on the golf course for us and trimming trees and basically, things that he has time to do and willing to do, and he's pretty much willing to do for the most part anything we ask, and he manages the burn pile for us. So, which, in my opinion, we do pay him, but he is a volunteer for doing it, and I appreciate what he does for us, big time. So thank you very much, Kurt.
Very much.
Firehouse, is John Martin on? Okay, so I was at the commission meeting in early December, and we met, what was his name? Clancy. Is that Clancy?
Yes.
Clancy, so Clancy was there. He's the Riley County attorney, something, and he sent me an email, and he said in 2 weeks, he's gonna have a document to the board to review and sign to agree to a land swap. I haven't seen the document yet, but basically, from what I understand, it's gonna agree to a land swap to give them the land to the south of the rental house. In exchange, we get the old firehouse once the new firehouse is built. So as soon as we get that document, we are going to review it and we are going to sign it. And then, unless there's something crazy in it, that we have to come before the community and have a big discussion, we'll probably just sign it and move forward, because it has been the same discussion for years. Back when Kurt was on the board, I think, this, yeah, so this is not new. This is not a new agenda item. This is an old item. So unless something's crazy in the letter, and there's been drafts out there already that people have seen, it's just not, we haven't seen a final. So anyway, we'll make a decision on that when we get it. And if there's any question or concern, we will share and we'll hold it back and we'll bring it to a board meeting and we'll discuss it as a community. But okay, any questions on that firehouse? Is there any questions on any of the committee reports? I know I went through them kind of fast. Sorry about that. I'll slow down next time. Questions? All right, I'm gonna line it out. So new business. So what we got here is we're going to approve 2024 meeting and picnic dates. And the dates are in the agenda, and I'm sure everybody has seen them. I'm not going to tell the dates, hopefully you've looked at them. So is there any discussion concerning the meeting and picnic dates listed on the agenda? Anyone? Obviously, when we get close to them, if something happens, we need to shuffle a date. It's been happened before and we'll do it again. But for now then, so do we have a motion to accept the 2024 meeting and picnic dates?
Before you do, so your plan is to always meet here, since we have heat working now, and have it on Zoom also. So that's what the plan is at this point.
Yes, I would like to hold the meetings in person unless for some reason we can't. That would be my preferred first choice.
Perfect.
So, and if we change it, we'll let everybody know. So do we have a motion to accept the 2024 meeting and picnic dates as listed on the agenda?
I motion to approve the meeting and picnic dates as listed in the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, so that's good. So proposed 2024 fee structure. So the, excuse me, annual parks usage fee, including ball and disc golf. We propose to leave it the same at $100 a family, which is what it's been for a couple of years, I think. Annual fee for disc golf, $30. Annual disc golf fee with golf carts, $100. We will be using the same logo as last year, with just a new color. Daily ball and disc golf fees at $5 per day. So all those fees are the same. Is there any discussion about the fees? Doesn't sound like it. Is there a motion to set the annual parks usage fee for 2024 to $100 per family? The annual fee for disc golf at $30, the annual disc golf fee and golf cart at $100, and the daily ball or disc golf fee at $5 a day.
I'll motion that those fees that you've listed out are acceptable for University Park, or I make a motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. That is done. So the burn pile fee, we propose to leave it still at $25. Is there any discussion about the burn pile fee? All right, there's no discussion. Is there a motion to set the burn pile fee for 2024 at $25?
I motion to set the burn pile fee at $25.
Now, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right. So. Let's see here. Okay, so here's a question then. So, question is, will the community continue to provide a complimentary annual parks usage and burn pile access to volunteer firefighters and support personnel? And basically, it's been going on, I think, for 2 years, if I remember correctly. Is there any discussion? Doesn't sound like it.
We appreciate our firefighters.
Yeah, that would be my discussion is we appreciate what they do for us, all of them, and the support folks. They couldn't fight the fires if the support people weren't there. And you know, I lay in my bed at night and I hear the fire truck go out and they come back. So I appreciate what they do. And you know, thank you. Thank you for your service. So is there a motion to give complimentary annual parks usage and burn pile access to the volunteer firefighters and support personnel for 2024? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. So you're
Do you want
motioning,
to actually? do
Yeah,
that?
yeah, all right, you wanna,
motion and second.
yeah, good job. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We're going so quick.
That's wonderful.
It is. Okay, so mail your payments to University Park, 7321 Highview Drive, Manhattan, Kansas. Or you can stick it up by the flagpole. There's a mailbox on the road. You drop it right in there. We prefer checks or cash in there. The thing about using PayPal and Venmo is we have to pay fees on it. So we prefer not to do those. So we don't have to pay a fee. So, but if that's what you want to do, then that's what you do. So, all right. Mowing. So contracted mowing. We propose to leave it at $75 per lot per mow, which is 3 times a year, which equals $225. Is there any discussion? So I'll discuss this a little bit. So, and it's in the financial report. Is basically the park brought in, it looks like $1,800 mowing. So, you know, those that contracted us, we appreciate that. And that goes into the general fund. It pays for the guys to mow. It pays for the fuel service, pays for workman's comp insurance, pays for liability insurance, pays for a lot of things. So one thing that did come up this last year that had never come up before, since I only got 2 years, but somebody had made a comment, somebody that contracted us, that they didn't like the mowing job. Well, these folks were used to living in town where, you know, little teenage boys show up with a push mower and a weed eater and they mow it and they weed eat and they trim around the flower bed. They didn't know they were going to get a bush hog mow. So, you know, we educated them, and our letters in the future, they're going to go out and they're going to let everybody know that we do a bush hog mow, not that in town pretty mow with edging and trimming. So Anyway, just something to think about that had never come up before. So no more discussions or any more discussion on that? No. So is there a motion to set the contracted mowing fee at $75 per lot per mow?
Yes, I make a motion, we set it for $75 per lot per mow.
I second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Motion carried. We agree on everything. I'm sure it'll be this way all the way through. Okay. So the next one is non-compliant lot owners per county regulations remaining $150 per lot per mow. Is there any discussion? So I'll leave the discussion on this. First off, we would prefer that all lot owners mow their own grass or manage the mowing of the grass themselves. If, for whatever reason, they choose the choice or omission not to mow their grass, it is going to get mowed in accordance with the Riley County regulations. And that regulation is a bunch of words, but basically has to do with height. How tall is the grass? And what I do is I go out with a tape measure and a camera and I snap a photo and I keep it. And if anyone complains about how high or why we mowed their grass, and I have visual documented evidence of the height of the grass when we mowed. Okay, we don't want to do it. I really prefer everybody do it themselves, but we had this year, we submitted quite a few. I don't have the exact number. I will say that we received $700 on the tax rolls for a tax assessment. We got $700 from 3 different property owners where they paid. There were some additional property owners who haven't paid, where it's still on their assessment, and either they'll pay it one day or the land will get sold. And if it gets sold for a high enough amount, you know, where the tax guy gets his money, then we'll get our mowing fee, or most likely we won't get nothing. But, you know, that doesn't mean we're not going to continue to do what we're doing. So we raised the fee last year. It used to be a lot less than that. And we weren't really necessarily following the Riley County regulation. And it was basically a better deal to not mow your grass and not contract us, because it was cheaper to pay the non-compliant fee. So we raised the non-compliant fee to encourage people to manage their own yards, manage their own grass. So anyway, that's some background on how we got to the price that we're at.
And so just to clarify, that this fee that we're discussing now is different than the last fee we just discussed, because the last fee is open to anyone that would want us to mow their lawn for them, correct?
That is correct.
And now we're discussing the non-compliant, who we have to go in and mow them without their permission, kind of.
That's correct.
good way to put it.
So we have a list of people. So who gets a letter? So it's good we talk about it, because the people that get letters are new property owners who don't know, you know, potentially don't know. And we keep track of all the property that changed hands out here. So we send letters to all the new property owners. If you were a non-compliant property owner last year, we send you a letter again and say, this is what's going to happen. If, you know, and you get a letter basically saying you can contract us, or if you're non-compliant, this is what it's going to cost you. We send that kind of letter to those people. If you had issues managing your yards last year, and we had to, which we did multiple times, contact property owners directly and say, hey, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? And if we had those kind of questions with property owners, we send them a letter, just so there's no question about, you know, I didn't know. There should be no I didn't knows going on here. That's our goal, is we don't want any I don't know. So anyway, so that those letters will go out we'll approve them in February, and they'll go out after that. So plenty of time for property owners to manage that. So I have a lot of information there. So
James, that is vacant lots. Mainly, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
You're not talking about a house with a yard that somebody, that's a whole nother deal.
It is. I mean, we've only had one issue where there was a house with a yard that didn't get mowed, and it took some time to work it out with a property owner, to contact them and go through family to get it resolved. And we were able to resolve it without, you know, that's a big deal to assess a long-term resident who just doesn't live out here now and send them a bill. You know, we'd much rather work that out, and we have never had to do that yet. But empty lots is basically, yes, what we're talking about.
Because you want to go in there with the brush hog and do it. You don't want to go into somebody's yard.
We do not. We do not.
You just don't.
So, any more discussion on that? Okay, so is there a motion to set the non-compliant lot owner's mowing fee at $150 per lot per mow?
I motion to approve that.
And I second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried. All right, so walking trails. So Ponch, who doesn't live here anymore, he started the walking trails out at University Park. And we need to decide, so when he left last year, midsummer, you know, we made a choice, the board at the time, to continue to mow them. And we did it with some volunteers a couple times, and then we hired Kurt, you know, as one of the things that he did for us is he mowed the walking trails for us. And Kurt, how much, or how long did it take you to mow?
Oh. Hour to hour and a half
Okay,
with
so,
the zero turn.
you know, that's $30.
Yeah.
$30. So the question is, in the community, is it worth $30 to the community? Occasionally, when the grass grows more, you mow more. When it's sunny and hot and it don't grow, then you don't mow. So is it worth the community to continue to mow that? Because it's kind of an added thing that we started last year. He mowed it for years by himself. We didn't do anything. So that's the question. And now we will move into discussion. What's the discussion on that? What's the thought?
Well, I, Carla Slinmaker would say, I see people on them all the time and I use them all the time. I think it'd be awesome. if you know them.
I agree. I think it's a wonderful perk for that amount of money.
Yeah, I don't use them, but I agree. You know, people are using them. I think they're really popular. I think that we need to do a better job of keeping vehicles off of them. There are some places on the trails that going behind trees and on corners where it appears to me people are driving vehicles fairly aggressively and have ripped all the dirt and have got ruts. That's not what those walking trails are for. You know, it's going to require this year, you know, putting some I'll say barricade, but basically rerouting some of these things and preventing the vehicles from driving on them so we don't have all these ruts and erosion. That's not what it's about. It's about walking. It's not an off-road trail. So I'd say if we can manage it correctly and people will use it correctly, I think we should continue to mow it and provide it for the community. So is there anything on? I'm sorry. Yeah,
I think that kind of fits into, I had another question earlier, Brian Dahl. My question would be like that, I think that ties in a little bit with, so we have an issue with people using vehicles as opposed to on the walking trails. We also have that issue with people using the burn pit when they're not supposed to be either. And so I guess I'm asking a much broader question than we're talking about right now. And of course, we can come back or talk offline. But I guess my question is like, what is the plan moving forward to prevent those two things? So I think those are two things that we've discussed previously that we have consistent issues with our community is people using those walking trails as ATV trails, and then also people using the burn pit when they're not supposed to.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought it up. So, I mean, we keep track of everyone that pays, and everybody in the community can see monthly who pays for the burn pile and access to the golf course. And your name is on there and the fee that you pay. So I will say that I know there are community members, and it is disappointing that community members are unwilling to pay $25 to use the burn fee. I mean, you know, if you've never driven all the way to town and dump stuff in the dumping station south of Manhattan, you'd realize that $25 is nothing. Okay, the nails you'll get in your tires just driving down there, it's cheaper to pay $25 to dump brush here and dump wood in the wood pile that we don't need to get into what's authorized. Everybody knows that, the signs say it. So I would ask that people to be more thoughtful and respectful of their neighbors who are currently subsidizing those that aren't paying. And there are definitely people out here on both the golf course and in the burn pile that are not paying. So, you know, are we going to send nasty letters? No, I'm not. I know who you are, and it's disappointing, but if that's what you want to do, then that's what you're going to do. And, you know, so that's that. So question though, if you're using a motorized vehicle on the golf course inappropriately, what is going to happen? Okay, if it's bad enough and severe enough and you will not do what you're supposed to do after being reminded, then action can be taken. So what kind of action? Basically, it is I suppose, I mean, I've never heard of it being done. You know, it would be unfortunate to have to do this to our neighbors, but if somebody pushed the line so far that they didn't care, then I suppose it would be some kind of a trespassing deal. The same thing technically if you were dumping batteries and ammunition in the burn pile, okay, that would be a trespassing issue and it would be dealt with a legal issue. Now, I don't want to do that and nobody wants to do that. And we're not saying we're going to do it, but it was a good question, Ryan, is, you know, what would happen? Well, it didn't got bad enough. That's what would happen. It would be a legal issue. So let's don't, nobody go down that road.
So is everybody aware there are signs that say what, I'm not going on the walking trails with motorized vehicles, not golf carts, not.
I will say that it is not clear right now, and that's one reason why there hadn't been a big push on it. It is, in my opinion, it is not clearly defined on where to drive vehicles on the golf course at all. So you know, there's a lot of word of mouth, and there's been a lot of discussion through the years, but I don't believe it's clearly marked. So other than, you know, reminding people, you know, we all basically know what the rules are. Let me say that up front. Unless you just moved here yesterday, then you don't know, but everybody else knows. So you may choose to ignore them, but you know them. So, but we need to do a better job to identify the proper locations to drive motorized vehicles on the golf course. I will say that 100%. So that'd be something for us to do this year. We put that up on,
Yeah,
on our agenda, and we'll make a point of that. We'll work with
And I'll get with you. I want to put the notes in there of exactly what.
okay.
Yeah, because some of the walking trails and some of the access trails for disc golf, where they walk from the basket to the next tee, you know, some of them are the same trail, you know. So if they're out there playing disc golf with a golf cart, you know, they're kind of on the walking trail or they're very close to the walk, you know, so but you can definitely tell there are places that are not anywhere close to the disc golf, that somebody's out there tooling around with ATV or something with aggressive tires.
Yeah.
You know, causing some erosion, some going out the grass in the trail. Last summer, it was really hard.
So
We'll have to define those trails.
we'll make a point of that this year, early this year, to get that defined and, you know, buy some signs and nice, good looking signs, put some signs up to remind folks and hopefully it won't come up anymore. That's all we can ask. So just be respectful of your neighbors. That's the number one thing.
And then what about what Ryan said? People that are going in there unauthorized at the burn pile, there's really nothing we can do at this point, and we're just going to.
I mean, I think that it is an honor system. I mean, like I said, man, that list is published. Just like I know everybody that's paid, anybody that takes time to look at the list, you know who's paid, you know who hadn't. And if you want to ask your neighbor why they didn't pay $25, you know.
Have we thought about like registering vehicles when they're going to the burn pit? That's one of the biggest problems is like you see a vehicle, of course, people use different vehicles, things like that. So it's very hard to look at someone and go, no, they're not supposed to be down there. But have we thought about registering, giving a list that someone says, okay, I paid my $25. These are my registered vehicles that I'm going to be using for the pit. And again, like that's not the end all be all, but it gives us a starting point to at least making, I don't want to say making, because that's not the right word, but like just registering a vehicle so we know typically what vehicles are going down there. Because right now, that's the biggest problem is, you know, again, like for Sarah and I, we live on the corner of the burn pit. And so there's vehicles that we know, we see them all the time, like they're just fine, they're doing the right thing. But when we see vehicles we don't know, it's just one of those, okay, could be somebody in the community, somebody who's paid, but just an idea. I mean, what about, hey, this is the main vehicle I'm gonna use is Kansas tag, yada, 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 or trailer tag, yada, 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 just so we have an idea of who's going to be coming and going.
So there was a discussion last year, or the year before, about because putting a camera on that road because, and down at the burn pile, because we had things being dumped, mattresses and just crazy stuff being dumped down there in that burn pile. That got to be an issue. And we cleaned it up with the signs. It seems like that problem, other than cardboard, still quite a bit of cardboard gets put down there, but for the most part, it, you know, we'll say the improper dumping down there has stopped. But in line with what you're saying, Ryan, I think that's too much burden. It's not fair on you and Sarah to police the burn pile. I don't think that's what.
No, and that's not what that's not what
But who is gonna?
Well, so what I would say though is,
That's the problem.
we did talk about a camera. And what a camera would do for us is, I'm not looking at a camera and I'm not gonna police it. But if I find a mattress in the burn pile, I can go back on the camera and see this truck went down there with a mattress and they came out without one. And I got your tag and I got your smiley face and we can go from there. So, you know, I'm just saying that may be a way to start getting control. But other than people possibly going down there not authorized, I think for the most part, and Kurt's pushing the pile up, so he could be better suited to say this. It appears that the improper dumping it has kind of resolved itself. I do see some wood with nails get thrown up in the brush, and I drag it back to the burn pile. But other than that, it looks pretty clean for the most part.
So can we put a definition in the meeting minutes of exactly what they can put in the burn pile, or is it just brush?
No, it's. I don't even want to say it because it's on those signs. If you want to go down there,
Yeah,
okay.
Thank you,
that's fine.
thank
You
you.
know what I mean? I can't verbally say it.
No,
I miss it.
can we get that, and I'll put it in the
She's
meeting
got the
minutes,
sign.
yeah.
So,
I just have a comment to make. This is Tracy Sabo. And so last year we had got 2 board member approvals to do dumping when the gate was closed. But we had gotten permission from the 2 board members. And so we dumped. And then shortly thereafter, someone snidely, chicken ass, put on Facebook, you know, you should know that when the gates close, you shouldn't dump. Well, we had permission. And so we had some targeted, you know, comments probably towards us about, you know, you can't dump when the gates closed. Well, we had permission. So I think that people need to give other people, if the gates closed, maybe they do have permission to dump, which we had. So I just want to put that out there because it was a very targeted comment and we had permission. So, you know, people just need to refrain from being, when they don't know the whole story, they need to probably be quiet.
right, so we did have a deal where the volunteer fire department was assisting us in periodically burning the burn pile and the wood pit for us. And I am familiar with what you're talking about, and I think that's where the confusion was, is the fire department was involved, you know, not necessarily the residents that live here, some of the ones that weren't, you know, in here, and they had different expectations than maybe some of the community members that live out here that, you know, are used to how the thing rolls. So it's unfortunate. I do remember that happening. It's unfortunate that happened. I will say that Kurt does most of the burning for us now. And for the most part, if Kurt puts the gate up, you know, the burn pile is closed, and I wouldn't give anybody authorization to dump down there unless I talk to Kurt, you know, because, you know, he's managing it. So.
Could you clarify when you put that gate up, and I'll put that in the meetings, or when the gate is put across?
So I try to burn pile at the beginning of the week, and you know, you gotta have good weather conditions. You don't wanna, it can't be a non-burning day, you know, that the county has put in.
Right.
We've got a burn permit, I've got to call into the burn permit to get permission and let them know we're gonna burn. So I try to do that away from a weekend, so that it can be open over the weekend. That's kind of something historically that everybody has requested. You know, that's when they're working in the yard. So I called in, I'm gonna tell them I burn it. I put the sign, the gate up, I go down and I burn it. I do not take the sign back down and open it back up until, it may be 3-4 days later, but those coals gotta be, I go down there a couple of times with the tractor and the loader and stir that pile around and make sure everything is burned up you can't have hot coals down there. And open it back up, because somebody's gonna come and dump something down there. And the wind's gonna come up and it's gonna, and then I have to call back into the county and say that it is completely safe, and it's okay, that's when I take it back down. Every time I close it, every time I open it back up, I have let James know, and he puts an email out saying.
Email and
"Closed."
Facebook is how we're doing it now,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
So we'll continue that and I mean, hopefully if you've got anyone has a project plan, particularly if you're paying somebody to come in and trim trees up, smart move is to let somebody on the board or Kurt directly know what's going on, so he doesn't go light a fire on Monday and you got somebody coming in on Wednesday, because that's gonna be a problem. So that's something to be thoughtful of, and tell your neighbors if you hear they're hiring somebody on Tuesday to trim trees, make sure they, I would say check with the board, but just make sure we're not burning. Don't assume we're not.
Well, I think what she was trying to say is, I remember that event as well, and I don't think anybody did anything nefarious by any means. I think it was just a lack of communication amongst the community. And I think what she's saying was like, just somebody called them out that didn't know. And that was more of the issue, is like, so, okay, like we have these exemptions to the burn, like just putting it out so everybody knows. So they took some criticism that wasn't deserved because they did the right thing. However, nobody else knew, so they still took it. I think is what she was getting at, which I'm not trying to speak for her, but I think that's kind of what happened in that instance anyway.
Yeah, I don't believe they used your name, if I remember right. They just said it happened. Isn't that true? Or did they didn't say your name? Tracy, you there?
Yes. No, they did not,
Okay.
but it was probably 30 minutes after we had taken some stuff up there.
Okay, all right. Well, we can all be more thoughtful on that, and try and work together, kumbaya. Okay, so I have a question. Did we finish the walking trails? We voted that thing out, didn't we? I didn't line it out.
We didn't vote on it, we just were discussing it and trying to
Okay.
turn pit discussion.
So,
Well, we did vote that he can take 90 minutes on the walking trail, is that what you're talking about? We did say, I've got 3-0, continue mowing the walking
Good.
trails.
done.
Yes,
Okay.
I just made it up.
Okay, so we have some long-term issues to be addressed in 2024. First one I want to talk about is the board wants to pursue a management contract for the University Park rental with the goal to implement it by 1 March with approval of the board. That's what we were proposing here. So is there any discussion from the community?
Yeah,
Yes, Kurt.
so why do you wanna do this? I mean, what's the benefit, what's gonna
Okay,
be the
so-
cost of it?
The last board, which was Richard and myself, and it got brought up then, and it was voted 2 against 1. I was the only A and they were the 2 nays for commercial contracting. And Richard Soash did manage it for, a year. And then, life happened and the guy that voted no ended up managing it. And I managed it all the way through to the renters, through the renovation, all the way through the end, managing it now. And example, this weekend, I was in that rental, I don't know how many times, 5-6 different times this weekend with furnace issues. Doesn't matter what the issues were.
What is it? I mean,
It was a brand new furnace, it's under warranty, there was a problem with the furnace and the gas line had a leak that got discovered after the propane ran out. Okay, we moved out here, we ran our propane out. Everybody's moved out here, not everybody, a lot of us moved out here, didn't understand propane, we ran out of our propane tank. When you run your propane tank out, and when they come out and fill it, they have to pressurize it. When they pressurize it, they found a leak that nobody knew was there, that you never could smell it, wasn't a problem, but now there's a leak. So they call Hood up, Hood comes out, Hood fixes it. Well, when Hood fixed it, it's not made to do this kind of work inside the furnace multiple times when something got damaged. And it took a while to resolve it, 3 days. Where the renters didn't have a furnace, they had electric heaters all weekend. All the way through Monday, when they came out with some parts and a different guy came out, a smarter guy, more experienced guy, and he fixed it. So it doesn't matter what it was, okay? I mean, you don't even want to know the number of times I've been to the house.
That's my question. How many hours in January have you spent on the rental house? Just give me an idea. I'm just
I have no idea.
5,
Oh,
7,
no, not even close.
3.
Way more than 5.
That's what my point is, and that's why I think that putting it under a company that handles it, so that a community member who's also volunteering doesn't have to spend that time on the rental house. I mean, I don't know what the cost is.
I have some estimates on the cost,
Yeah.
but let me finish talking it out. So I know that in the past, the community has volunteered to manage it. And I think that it was fine, back then when rent was $900, or $800, and we provided the propane. We're at $1,500 now. At $1,500, the level of response and responsibility is much higher than it was previously. Okay, I own rentals, so I take my responsibility to my renters seriously, and I'm not saying it wasn't taken seriously before, but it needs to be taken seriously. So I don't believe that anybody and everybody can volunteer to manage the rental. If you don't have experience managing a rental, it's not fair to the community, and it's really not fair to the renters to have somebody that doesn't know what they're doing managing the rental. It's not fair, and I wouldn't do it. Now, if there's someone in the community that has experience, we would consider it. Come talk and say, look, I manage rentals for 10 years and I got 2 of them myself. We don't want to just necessarily just give money away. Okay. Or maybe we pay someone in the community who has the experience that wants to manage it. We're willing to listen to options. That's why we're not just go signing the contract right now. We're talking about it on what options are out there. I'm saying that, and this board, the 3 of us do not want to manage the rental. That's what we're saying. So we're looking for options, and we are discussing with commercial management companies. Now, we haven't signed a contract yet. We are just talking to them to find out what it'll cost and what the options are, what the restrictions are. I looked at the contract and I saw a lot of restrictions. And once you sign a contract, you lose all control of it, everything to do, so as a guy that owns rentals, I don't want to lose control of my rental. So I have some concerns when I saw the contract. I'm not saying we don't do it. I'm just saying I had some concerns. So we're just bringing it up.
So what is the charge? What is a rough charge?
10%.
10%.
Plus they take a charge, they take a fee when they find new renters, they take a fee when they renew a lease, they take a fee, like all those times I was out here. I think I don't know, if it's not scheduled, it's $35 an hour for them. There's all kinds of fees. All that stuff costs, and listen, I don't mind, I'm already doing the board, and it's just too much to do that to, Yes, Ryan.
Yeah, so I agree completely with outsourcing for the rental. I think there's been allegations before, whether they're founded or not, of misappropriation from the rental.
Yes.
So I think that's a good idea. My only question would be what is the response time? Because I've dealt with commercial properties before, and so if it's commercial property from the city of Manhattan coming out here to do some sort of work on the rental, what kind of things are we looking at, response time to to a furnace outage, let's say this weekend, when we're looking at -7 below, when there's gonna be work piled up, is that gonna get pushed to the bottom, or what does that look like as far as actual
James,
response?
Isn't one of the companies that we're considering, they already have other
They do.
properties in the area?
They do.
And so
They have 2 out here already.
Yep.
But I'll say this, that whoever you sign with, no one will have the response time that I have. I would guarantee that. I think the renters. would
Okay, well
guarantee
then
that.
why are we even looking?
Yeah, there you go. It's easy for you. So, so in the end, maybe not by March 1st, we need to find a solution, and I'm not the long-term solution. So, and none of us are.
What are we getting for rent now? 1,800?
1,500.
So if everything runs smooth and hunky-dory and no problem, they're gonna get $150 a month.
They are.
We're not doing a damn thing.
Well, they actually would be doing a damn thing, aren't they? doing the lease, everything to do with the
Well,
lease, aren't they?
But, right, but
Well,
they get that
we pay
money.
you For that lease?
They get, well, when they sign the lease, they take half, so that's $750. So they sign the lease, they take $750, they take 10% every month. If their tenants renew at the time of renewal, the one we're looking at now, they take $75 just to, do the paperwork. I mean, listen, it takes time to do leases and paperwork. So I'm telling you, it does. So I'm not begrudging them $75 or $750. If that $750 includes them driving out here every single time and showing the apartment or showing the house, although they won't have to show that one very many times to rent it, and the price is $750, that's the price of $750. So, you're right, we've never had to pay it before. So, but once again, you gotta remember though, it's easy. You were on the board, Kurt, so I'm not dogging you, okay? You did a lot. You worked on the rental a lot, I know you did. But it's easy to be on the other side, when you're not doing the work. When you were doing the work, what it took.
And James, what was rent last year? I know we raised rent for
$13.50.
tenants, so we've increased it by more than that, $150. So it's not like we're losing money. We're not going backwards on
Well, that
rent
was
if
part
we
of the
find
reason
demand.
for raising the rent was because you were
The renos.
considering.
Well, and we renovated, listen, we spent, I don't know, $17,000, including the furnace, all that stuff, and it was a lot of money, so we spent a lot of money to make more money. But long term, you'll make that back, so, you need to be, the community needs to be respectful of the board's time.
Oh.
And I know you are, Kurt, so, I'm not dogging you in the least, but, it is a lot.
I think what you're saying is it was never free.
It was.
Never free.
Yeah,
Somebody was always paying.
Somebody-
was working for nothing. This
exactly.
at least allows someone to work for something, but it was never free before.
And I want to be straight, is I don't want to be paid to manage it. I do not want to manage this. I'm not trying to get a dollar out of this. I don't want anything to do with it,
No. And here's the other thing, you're a neighbor. You're like, let's say you guys said, oh, I would like to manage. Can you imagine be having the people walk, you're a neighbor. We don't let neighbors, in my personal opinion, neighbors managing. Unless they.
And I thought about that.
Experience, yeah.
But not everybody is the same level of neighbor. There are neighbors that live in their house and don't know anybody else. Versus there's everybody that comes to the picnic and, their kids play together. Okay, there's different levels of neighbor. If the neighbor is the neighbor that shows up to check the furnace and change the filter.
I got you. Yeah.
And that's all the only interaction they have. I don't necessarily maybe have a problem with that, but we're willing to look and consider it, that's what I would say, so.
So
we're not there yet.
you're gonna postpone the vote then, is what you're saying? We're
Well,
just
yeah.
discussing it.
Yeah, we are just discussing it right now. That, I apologize for saying that was a vote. I actually wrote it on mine too. Yeah, we're not ready to vote on that. We are,
And I just like Carlos Slaymaker, I would just like to say that as long as everything is running smoothly, I mean, even with like hiccups with the furnace or whatever, it's not a problem interacting as a neighbor. But if at some point there was ever a problem that comes up with a renter, with rent or whatever, and then that gets really complicated when you're trying to get rent from someone but you know them personally, but then it just gets really complicated, whereas someone managing from the outside wouldn't have those same
Right.
complications.
yeah. Hey, the renters were great about no heat this weekend.
Yes.
Better than a lot of us would have been. I'll guarantee that. Particularly when you're paying rent and your furnace don't work for 4 days. So, thank you to them for being considerate. They knew we were trying. So that's what matters, is trying. So.
So if you've got some contracts, you've looked them over, you're looking them over.
Yeah.
I would be interested to know what some of those restrictions that have even raised a little bit.
Yeah, I don't mind sharing the contracts at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more than willing to share the contracts, particularly once we nail one down, and before we vote on it, is let the community see what we're voting on,
Okay.
and no problem, I agree.
Just like the renovation that we've done, this past one and several other ones, there's been a lot of volunteer work done there. Are we gonna be restricted if we can't do that? It
Yeah,
has to be an outside contractor,
yeah,
you know?
that's exactly right. When the lease I read, the contract I read, for the most part, I'd say for the most part, it eliminated the ability for us to work on the house. So what I'm saying, I had problems when I saw it. If it was my lease and I was hiring somebody, I would have a problem signing it. And my theory is if I don't want to sign it for myself, I would have a difficult assignment for the community. So we're either gonna have to come to a different contract with this guy, or we're gonna have to find a different guy. You know, that's what I would say. So yeah, we've got some concerns, Carl and I both. We looked at it, and there's some, I won't say problems. It's fine if you live in Florida and you got a house in Kansas and you never come to Kansas. Sure, this is the guy you want. But for us, it's different. So I assume that I'm sure the guy will work with us. So we'll see.
Okay.
We're not there yet. But thank you, Kurt. Any other questions or concerns? Yes.
This is Tracy. And I was wondering, do we have any type of proposal that has been wrote by University Park, like the board, of what we want? So I know there was some concerns about some stuff was put out for bid and local people didn't get to bid on it, which, you know, I'm not proposing that, but to be able to put it out there, so if someone local does want to apply for it, we would have some kind of paperwork that says this is what we require. And that would also help to crosswalk between what we want and what another contract would look like.
Yeah, for government wise, yeah, you got to send out specifications, you got to get bids. We're not that level of government, and particularly in this situation, when you have a lease signed for a renter to move in, you do not have time to drag things out. You've got a date where that tenant was going to move in, and you've got to get it done by. So a lot more work. It's a lot of work to ask a volunteer to put out specification and wait for neighbors.
But I think what Tracy's point, or I could be wrong, is are we going to put some information out there saying, if you are interested, we are looking at hiring
This is it. Yeah, so when she
okay.
sends out when you send out the minutes, you can
like
put something up. But to be clear, is we're not looking, if no experience need not apply.
So Tracy, is that what you were? Got it.
You need to know what you're doing.
All right, so I'll highlight that in the note.
Well, yeah, it's just so that there's a description. And then that also helps to check off what the companies you're looking at. So, we have a checklist to go by of what we want, and then maybe what we don't want.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, I'll need help putting that together.
Okay.
Thank you, Tracy.
Covenant update. So I'm going to read this first. It says, so previous boards have begun the process to update the covenants, and we want to finish it. The board feels that we need to hire a lawyer for consultation, and we'll be voting on approving a retainer of up to $5,000 with a lawyer to be determined. So discussions. I know, Kurt, you had something offhand.
Well, you're not gonna get any argument from me that the covenants need updates. That's a no-brainer when you look at it. They're old, they're outdated, there's things that are happening in University Park that are totally dead set against in defiance of the covenants. The biggest thing, no matter what's written in them covenants, is the enforcement of it. Who and how. It's just like managing the rent. Who's gonna do it? It's all gonna fall on the board, or we're gonna hire a lawyer now to enforce the covenant. How do we enforce it? How do you write it?
Okay.
And I want to speak a minute to that too, because I did go down to the county, because I wanted at the beginning, when I was taking Richard Sweeten's place, I wanted to find out what they thought and give us some help if we were going to relook at the covenants. And they mentioned, they printed out Blue Hills, is it Blue River? They said their covenants are fairly new. Your guys' covenants are very old. And so that's one solution, is look at somebody else that's done it nearby us. But then the second one is what James has in the notes, getting an attorney involved. Just what can we enforce and how and who? So that would be a question for the attorney to try and help us. I mean, if nothing's enforceable, why is it even in writing? I think we do want it to be enforceable in some way, but.
Right, so when we, and we're not doing that now by any means. We can talk a little bit about the overall plan of how to proceed. Is the first level is the Riley County regulations. 2 years ago, they rewrote it. It's pretty thorough, covers a lot of things that were in the old covenants. So if it's in the Riley County regulation, that means they will enforce it. So we can immediately go in our covenants for the most part. I don't want to argue every point, with the folks there, but basically, eliminate the ones that are enforceable, because that's what at the county level. So then there's some remaining, obviously. So then what does the community care about? And when you say care about, okay, I care about everything, okay? Care about everything, but what are we willing to pay to enforce? Because obviously if you're willing to do something against it that's against the covenant, then asking you not to do it is probably not going to make a difference. And that's obviously the first thing is please don't do that. And they do it anyway. You say, please don't do that again, and they do it anyway. At some point, you're going to have to do something else. It's like raising kids. Okay. So that's where the lawyer comes in. When we rewrite the covenant, the lawyer can assist us in making sure that the things we write are enforceable. Because I'm not a lawyer and I don't know what those things are. I have an idea what they are, but I don't know. And the lawyer says, look, you can write that in there, but you can't enforce it. Then why would we write that in there? So that to me is eliminated. Okay. Because in the past, for the last 50 years, the covenants were enforced by mutual agreement as a community that we all agree to follow these rules. That's what it was for the most part. And occasionally somebody sent a letter, knock on a door, but that's what it was. Okay. That's not what it is anymore. So we need to be prepared for what it is today and what it'll be tomorrow. And that's a lawyer, and the lawyer will help us write the covenant. And obviously once he helps us write it down the line, potentially, he can help us enforce it. He will not enforce it for free. He won't enforce it for this retainer. I mean, we'd have to, it's not be like you didn't mow your grass, so we're going to go hire the lawyer again and send you a letter and pay the lawyer $1,000 to send you a letter to say mow your grass. It's going to be a big deal, in order to hire a lawyer. So those are the kind of things in the end, the final list of the things that we feel are important as a community. Those are the things that we're also willing to enforce with money. So, that's a big picture of how we're going to proceed and what it really means by hiring a lawyer, So anyway, so there's discussion on that. And we're not doing that right now, other than agreeing to write a check for a retainer for a lawyer. Yes, Carla, you raise your hand? No.
So I'm gonna go back to what the county spoke to me about is Blue River just recently did theirs within 2 years. Did they hire a lawyer? Or did someone help them? And what kind of covenants are those? And I do have the copy of those. I mean, just looking at that maybe would help the community understand we're not trying to make it an HOA or whatever the problems were previously when you guys looked at them. We're just trying to make them make sense. And a lawyer is a great place to start, as well as covenants that have been written recently by neighbors. Neighborhoods nearby.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, looking at those documents that were written and getting their assistance when we start the process of rewriting our covenants is going to be really important.
Yeah.
I mean, but right now, what we're talking about is authorizing funds for a lawyer so we can prepare you can't hire a lawyer in a day. I mean, it's going to be a bit, so I just want to get rolling on it is what I want to do.
Do you have any idea of what the dollar amount might be?
I tell the lawyer we're only going to give him $5,000. That's what I would say, because that's all we're going to approve here. Hopefully, he only wants $2,000. I don't know. I mean, I've hired lawyers before. They all want different money depending on what the situation's for. So,
If I might, who at the county, was that planning and zoning?
No. I've got the name written down. It was lower level. I've been in upper second level, not by, isn't that Bob Isaac's department? And it wasn't that one. No, they sent me down to get copies printed off. That I believe that might be it. I've got it written down. I didn't bring it. I researched this about 8. Pardon me?
A true politician.
You mean me? Not right.
No,
No, it was about 8 months ago when I first was walking into Seaton's job. I just wanted to explore.
Sure.
And I remember them saying, well, let's print this off for you. You should look at these. That might help University Park. And I thought that was logical.
Well,
and I think
and
that's
I could see, basically like the remote. I mean, that non-compliance is per county regulation,
It
you
is.
know. And so if we can if you can establish a lot of that into, I
Exactly.
mean, that's kind of what stalled out the last time is we were kind of waiting for the county to get their ducks in a row.
We were. That was the number one reason why we stopped. Is that, well, and it was the right thing to do, is let's wait for the county to write it, because then we can eliminate all those things
And planning and zoning. I believe.
and only deal with what's
Have
happening.
that all the time.
Oh, it is done, 100%.
It's on, but-
Yeah, 100%. So I think it should go fairly quickly. You know, I guess the biggest thing that the county does agree that we have the right to enforce is the building code we have out here. 1,000 square foot living space. You know, you can't build a shop without a house. I mean, the county enforces that for us. There's been no question about that. So, but everything else is on the table. You know, that's what I would say for discussion. So, but have it online. You guys anyone online have a comment or concern?
I just want to say that I'm supportive of it, very supportive.
Who was that? So I can put your name in.
Oh, Tracy.
Oh, Tracy, sorry. Tracy's supportive, okay. Was it Jim Jackson who also was talking, or Ward, or?
This
All right.
is Nick Bedford. I had a quick question.
Nick.
Hey, I know I've talked to all of you guys a little bit about lawyers in the past. Now that it's back on the table, I'm just kind of curious if we are going to do this, is it, you know, the potential sewer issue that has been discussed in the past going to potentially be discussed again?
So are you talking about suing the county? Is that what you're saying? Or asking?
Not, I mean, seeking options, not necessarily suing the county, but yes. I mean, if we're hiring somebody for that, that seems like as big a deal, if any, as the covenants.
Right, so I will say that at this time, the only thing I'm gonna talk to the attorney about is the covenants. And that was all I was intending on requesting funds for, is for that. So I wasn't interested, or I wasn't intending to expand it and pay more money for additional things.
And I'm
So-
sorry, I might have missed it. Was there an amount given?
Well, so I haven't got a solid number from any lawyers yet. Okay, you know, I have to give them a better scope so I can get a better retainer number. I said $5,000. You know, I mean, I've given a $5,000 retainer. Up to 5,000. I'm sorry, thank you. Up to 5,000 is what I said.
Okay, I was just curious. I remember coming up there requesting, you know, a few $100 to check out our options with what seemed like a lot of community support, some of which might have even come from the current board. And I don't know, I just, you know, find it a little frustrating that it's all right to approve it now. This seemed like a bigger deal to me. I could be wrong, but either way, I'm sure it's worth looking into.
Okay. All right, thank you, Nick. Any other discussions? Sarah, you got anything? Any concerns or questions about it or discussion? Okay. Okay, we gotta find it here, read my thing. Okay, so is there a motion to pursue hiring a lawyer for consultation with funds available for a retainer of up to $5,000? All in favor, say aye.
Well,
We need a
Oh,
motion.
I'm sorry, I need a motion.
I'll make a
Sorry.
motion to approve
Sorry.
lawyer up to $5,000 retainer.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
I.
Aye. Sorry about that. New firehouse. We actually did a pretty good job covering that earlier. I'm just looking here to see if I had any other notes. I don't think so. I think we covered the firehouse. Were there any questions about the firehouse that we need to? Additional questions?
Is there a more updated timeline on that at all?
I mean, 2 weeks, he says we're gonna get a letter,
Okay.
so we'll see. We'll see.
It's been on his desk for months.
Yeah.
Months,
But in 2 weeks,
but I know people have been.
if I don't, if you know, if he's busy and I haven't heard from him, I'll shoot him an email and I'll ask him again, you know, just to remind him, to get it back to top of the pile, so.
Should we table that vote then until you get that letter, or?
Yeah, we're not voting right now.
Okay.
Yeah, roger that. Thank you, yeah.
It's ironic
My
that
mistake.
they have, the county has approved the contractor to prepare the sites for the new firehouse, and they haven't got the legal paperwork yet.
Yeah,
I find that very ironic for the county to do
We don't
that.
technically have the
I
site
couldn't.
yet.
Yeah.
We're gonna have it south of the rest of
yeah, I spoke to, who was the Army Corps guy? Anyway, I understand that there's, yeah, Brian McNulty, that they basically have the engineering done, they have it all done, they are ready to go. They get this letter, they wanna like start moving dirt and pouring concrete, I mean, they're ready to go.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, it sounds like, and the funding's in it there, so we could actually get this thing this year theoretically. Anyway, we'll see, hopefully so. The Bayview Circle Road encroachment, we already talked about that. Thank you, Tracy, for getting that information for us.
So the township is, addressing that.
They are, and the next level is they are probably gonna ask University Park to either sign a letter or issue a letter. We'll take their lead. We will definitely sign a letter. We all agree that something needs to be done about this. And we're willing to sign that letter and try to get it resolved. I mean, for no other reason than the fire trucks access and the ambulances and all that other stuff getting down that road. I mean, it's just not really doable. So, but we'll keep everybody informed on that. And then the last thing I hear is, and we did talk about it a little bit, but I'm gonna run over this. So after lagoon construction, we will need to relocate golf holes 5 and 6 and some of the disc golf holes. So bigger pictures, we need to start thinking about how this affects the golf and the disc golf course during construction and how the course will be reshaped after construction is complete. Tee boxes, flags, baskets on affected holes should be removed prior to construction. No actions needed now, but we just all need to be thinking about a long-term plan because it will happen this year. There's no doubt. I mean, it is coming. And, you know, so we said we're in January, February. Yeah, I mean, so I'd say by March, something's going to happen. You know, there'll be some dirt movers out there. So anyway, be thoughtful about that and talk amongst yourselves and any questions on that item, concerns? All right, is there anything else that we missed or somebody wants to bring up before we adjourn the meeting? All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.